Yo, can we together as a collective pray for Jaden Ivey? Jaden Ivey, formerly of the Pistons, now formerly of the Chicago Bulls. He went on a rant on his Insta Live about how it is not righteous for the NBA to have celebrate LGBTQ a plus month. He went on about how Steph Curry is a fake Christian.
Damn.
He went on about a lot of things, and the internet started having a good hardy har over it because he was crashing out. But then as more came out, you know, you could see that his mental health probably wasn't in the correct space. You've heard some of that lingering from the Pistons. The Chicago Bulls waived him immediately. And there's some more clips out now where he's talking about how he never felt loved and just his upbringing, and it's real rough. So,
furs up.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
yeah, I just saw the rant. That's why I thought you was joking at first. Like, what? Nah, with all of that, yeah, I get it now.
It's a tough situation. There's like multiple layers to this. The first layer was the kind of public reaction to him, and people saying, you know, he should be punished or disciplined for what he said. And I didn't like what he said at all. I thought it was awful. You know, I don't like people being disciplined though for
Speaking.
Particularly if you're speaking from a place of religious conviction. You know, I think he's wrong. You know, I was horrified by it. I wasn't horrified. I was disgusted by it. But I think I never really liked that position. Now, you could say, as a team and as a league, we have interests, and we don't want people with this position representing our interests. But that gets you in a very messy territory. That just gets into a very messy territory. And so I wasn't happy with that. I also didn't love the fact that...
What is the messy territory?
The messy territory is, if we say that, he should be punished because he has a religious belief about something, and he's expressing it, and so you can't be in the league. I can see saying we're not going to put you in the commercials. I can see saying we're not going to, I can see an individual team saying this is against my values, but I don't want to normalize this idea that every time someone has a religious difference and they express it, that they're gone. Because then what happens if I have religious difference, that I may have religious difference, you may have religious difference or principle difference on something.
Yeah, but a few things on that, right?
And you're going too.
One,
and that's the dangerous territory.
One, today, right? And again, let me preface all this with, I ain't the religion expert. But today, where context matters, there's a lot of people in society using their religious beliefs to get off hate speech.
Yes.
For sure.
And there are plenty of companies that have specific language in the contract to where they can clip you at the drop of a dime if they hear hate speech.
But stay there. I see both sides. But
And that was my first point. I was getting to the second point. But go ahead, please.
But sometimes what'll happen is you can have a critique of somebody and they'll call it hate speech when it's really not hate speech. You get what I'm saying? And so you can get fired, and that's what we see right now with cancel culture. You could say something, and then if somebody is powerful enough, they'll say, oh, that's hate speech, and it may not be hate speech.
I get that. I just don't think that's applicable in this situation.
I've been fired for that.
Yeah, and so no, that's the fine line I think you're referring to.
Yeah.
Like, yo, I could say, I'm just throwing one out here because we all, outside of Parks and Poe, we all black. So if somebody say something about a black person, like if a white person say something about a black person, it could be critiquing the person. It don't necessarily have to be, yo, that person is a bigot or that person is a racist, and that's what we do today in society. So when you start playing with people's freedom of speech, now if you work for me and you representing my team, you got to go. I'm not mad at that.
Okay.
But I'm not mad at that because you signed on for the team. But I still, to Mark's point, don't believe that we should be policing people's
It just makes me a little uneasy.
freedom of speech.
But you're not policing anybody at work.
True. No,
At work.
I'm agreeing with you. If I come up here and say some shit.
Mark's beliefs are that, if you stand in something, then no matter where you are, you should stand in it, right?
Here's the trick. Yeah, but here's the tricky part. He wasn't at work, right? He's tweeting. That's where it gets. That's what I'm saying. It gets tricky.
But you represent the organization.
Yeah.
No, and they have policies. I'm not.
I get you.
I'm not. Again, I oppose what he said, and I agree that people use hate speech often, or I agree that people often shroud religion, or hate speech and religion. It's also true that there are a lot of people. For example, there are people who believe that marriage should only be between men and women. and they believe that their religious faith, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, whatever, supports that position. That is a mainstream religious position.
What place does that have in the workplace?
Take the workplace out. If that person, I'm comparing apples to apples. I'm saying if someone tweets that, right, that I believe that marriage should only be between men and women as a matter of faith, should they get cut from a team? Because that's what just happened. He tweeted some shit. If he's at an NBA press conference, I feel you, maybe. If he's on the court, definitely. But if you can't tweet as a private citizen things that you believe,
But I think you can.
and they can let you go.
It's character clauses like that. Like, yo, they have these things in contracts for a reason. Even when you are on your own out there in tweeting or live streaming or whatever the case may be, you can still say some that causes blowback to the team.
But
you are still a representative of this team.
I
even
agree
if
with
you're
all
not
of
on
that.
court.
All I'm saying is that there might be a little gray area
It is.
when people start to say that it's a character issue.
Well, the character stuff applied before this ever happened.
And I'm with you on that. And again, if I were the owner of the team, I would have let him. I don't know if I'd let him go after that moment, but I could see how someone could get there. I just think that we start to enter a fuzzy area when we start saying, because again, as somebody who's been fired from jobs for things that the world at the time believed was wrong, and that they're coming around now, but at the time they believed was wrong. Like they said, it was my character. You know what I mean?
But that was your character.
Mark, do you think you...
Hold up for a minute. That was your character.
No, but they were saying that I was demonstrating poor character and hate and hatefulness, specifically by virtue of me making a particular claim that they didn't agree with.
That's subjective.
And I'm just saying that can get into... It is subjective. And I'm just saying that can get into fuzzy areas.
That was off script from your employer.
Off script? What do you mean? Just to make sure I understand.
That wasn't their belief.
Oh, yes.
It wasn't in line with the job. It wasn't in line with what their expectations of you in that moment. Like, you were still on a clock.
Yeah, and again...
And you took that time to get on your own.
But here's why in my case, it's very tricky because my job was to give political opinions. And I gave one. They just didn't agree with my political opinion. So, and again, that becomes very messy. Again, I disagree with Jaden Ivey. I agree with the criticism of him in that particular case, but I don't think someone's employment should hinge on whether I agree with them all the time. That's all. I'm just saying because that just could get dangerous. That's all.
Do you think that you're mixing it up, or because of what happened with the Kyrie situation? Do you feel like
it's another example?
Do you feel like the Kyrie
that's a better
situation?
example.
That's a
yeah,
great
I know,
example.
but his was we can see. We don't agree that he should have got punished at all just for retweeting what he retweeted, right? But this one, if you're saying something that, and you guys said it already, I can understand that. But we shouldn't compare the two.
But that
I see
was my
people doing
point.
that.
So if his belief as a Christian,
fine line. That's the really fine line.
Got it.
Yeah.
That now two people get to choose what is derogatory and what's not.
That's all I'm saying.
I see what you're
It
saying.
can just enter tricky territory.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Again, it's not about this particular case for me. It's more about the bigger.
Yeah, this is
picture.
cut and dry.
Yeah.
This is cut and dry. I'm just for objective dialogue. This is cut and dry. But to your point, I see where it could be a really fine line.
Do you believe that even if you feel that way, to shut the up, everything doesn't have to be said?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
what you.
For me, because I don't subscribe to speaking religion or politics really anywhere.
So does that
That's me.
Is it a thin line of freedom of expression, and like that's a thin line then, right? So
We have freedom. We have
ourselves.
freedom of speech. You don't have freedom of consequence.
That's true.
Yeah, and people confuse what freedom of speech actually means. Like when it was written in the Constitution.
That's true.
People thinks it means I could just go out and say whatever the I want because I feel this way.
Yes.
And it's fine. That's not what it was for. It's saying that the government cannot prosecute you, for your belief.
Or persecute you, right? Both, yeah.
But that's what's being happening.
That's happening.
The government ain't doing that. That's not the government. That's your job. Totally different.
No.
Your job is a private company that you work for, and they have their own beliefs. And if you go out and do something that is against the beliefs of the company, you have to suffer consequences.
I'm agreeing with you.
No, but there
what
are
we're seeing on a wide scale today is people that have government influence. You know what I'm saying? Forcing the government to punish people.
But also, there's a way. But also, companies can't violate those rights either. I mean, it's different. For example, like I have the right to be Jewish. Right? A company can't fire me for being Jewish.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Even though they're not the government. So, and the spirit, and that's because
they can't discriminate.
Yeah, they can't discriminate, protect the class,
Absolutely.
but it's also a way of protecting my freedom of association and things like that. So, then you're right. It's not the same thing, but they do overlap in a lot of areas. And for me, I want to make sure that stuff just gets protected and preserved.
They will give you can have the right to be Jewish in your example.
Right.
That doesn't also mean you get to now come in here and speak out against other things in here. You can have your beliefs and be who you are.
Right.
But once you start speaking out against others, if it's not in line with the company is going to take action.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Yeah, and I agree with this case. There are areas
I'm just
where
saying
it
in general.
becomes
Also, even in this case, and I toss it right to you, Flip, after this, but even in this case, right? Like, sometimes you want to assume that teams have seen a little bit more, right? From the Pistons, when he left the Pistons, he's a lottery pick. He was hurt. They were waiting for him to get back. As soon as he got back, got him out of that. It looked weird. And then we started to hear the rumblings. Then he goes to Chicago, again, as a lottery pick, somebody that people said had a lot of talent. He doesn't play. It looked weird. The rumblings came about. So sometimes the team has seen a little more of you behind the scenes before the public saw your crazy ring. I don't know that they might not have been distancing themselves from him regardless. They got 19 guards on the team.
And you just gave me the reason to let you go without any pushback.
Yo, we worried about you. We've seen enough to be worried about you now, and let's take basketball off your plate.
I've heard, again, I don't have a direct source on this, but I have heard, like, secondary, that is exactly what's happening. That's what a lot of sports beat writers are saying. So I could understand that more. People are saying that he seems unhinged. What was a red flag for me, not that he has this belief. There's a lot of NBA players who have this belief. Mm-hmm. Just like there's a lot of sports writers and politicians and everybody who has that
Americans,
belief.
period.
Americans, period.
Yeah.
They just don't say it out loud.
Right.
The fact that he chose to say it out loud, knowing the NBA brand and knowing the NBA product, said to me that either he's like, my religion trumps everything, or he's not in a good headspace right now. Now, I've heard some Christians, including some prominent Christians online, say that they're offended at the idea that because they're expressing their faith, that means they must have a mental illness. Maybe he's just really standing on principle. I hear that side, but I don't agree with it. I think his behavior seems unusual, even for him. And that combined with what other sports writers are saying, who know a little bit more than we do, as Joe said, I think something's going on with him, and I'm actually concerned.
No Joe Budden.